Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's StepsBasic, and welcome back to one of my stream of consciousness thingies. Like I was talking about last week, this one's going to be a good one because I like this subject. But first, as always, we got to do ourselves our announcements, and I never actually got around to doing The Wolf Among Us because I've been working on a big project, which, by the way, is actually active, and I'm going to provide a link down in the description for you. It's my Babbling Beards episode for comparing and contrasting Final Fantasy VII Remake versus the classic. Took a lot of work, but I got it done, and I think it came out pretty well. I like it. Apart from that, had finished up The Last of Us, so I'm going to be starting a Bioshock, and just have to finish up The Wolf Among Us, and starting next Friday, because I'm going to do it on Friday, is going to be Doom Eternal. No more announcements beyond that yet. I do have a few things in the works, but hush hush for now. Make sure I don't make any promises I don't fulfill. But today I wanted to talk about the most important thing I find about myself. And yes, it is brought on by the fact that my daughter is turning teenager this month, the 25th. She becomes a teenager. I'm like, ugh. But no, I wanted to talk about being a father, because I often joke that I was born to be a father. It was the one thing that I have forever felt like was my calling. Like if I were to say anything was my calling, I would say being a dad. There's my writing and everything, and that's all fun and games, but I love it and everything, but nothing ever felt nearly as fulfilling to me as being a dad. And I know, there are some people in the world who don't care for children. And while I don't agree or even kind of understand, I still allow people to have their opinions about it. And, if folks don't want to be parents, then don't be parents. But for me, I've wanted to be a parent since I was a kid. Many times when I was a kid, young adult, teenager style, I was babysitting or watching other little kids, and everyone was always, heaping me with the praise. Like, you're so good with the kids. It's good to see you, good to see you being so good with these little kids and so patient and so understanding, and you're not, like other teenagers where you're always getting cranky with them because they're not as cool as you. I guess part of being a dad means accepting that you're just not cool. Because, yeah. But it was an interesting transition, becoming an adult and then becoming a father. But seeing it change myself from the very first day I was a dad. I mean, first of all, like the exact day that my daughter was born, I developed seasonal allergies, which was weird. Granted, March, comes around, everybody gets some allergies where all the pollen's in the air and you're like, but I never experienced it until the day she was born. And I thought that was just strange, but whatever. Comme ci, comme ça, right? It is what it is. But more than that, there was a confidence boost, holding my little baby girl in my arms and knowing that I would give anything for her. I would give my entire life to make sure she lives and has a good life. And that's me, that's how I am. And, but, it was more than just that, I've never really particularly had a good opinion of myself. And seeing as how throughout my entire life I've often thought myself as being the lowest of the low, it didn't lead to good confidence when it came to doing things. But then becoming the father, I realized I didn't have time for lack of confidence. I couldn't be the whole flip-flopper. I couldn't be the guy who waffled on things. I had to be confident in who I was, because for the next 18 years, I had to teach this little girl how to be confident in who she is. I gotta say, I've done a pretty decent job. Honestly, I have my own doubts about my own successes as a father, but everybody else is very, very happy with my work. From her mother to my friends to other parents say she's the most respectful, even-minded child that they've met. And I'm like, cool. But then it started to extend to other things in my life, things I'd never been good at before. Suddenly I had, well, I wasn't spectacular at them. I was accomplished, building things and working on stuff. Very vague statements, but that's the best way to explain it, Building furniture, building the garden in the back. Still haven't finished it yet, but suddenly things I wasn't particularly good at, it was just flowing, I'm still not particularly good at like sports and stuff because I don't play them, and I never really had any sort of talent with them when it came to that. But like, I finished a book, which is something I struggled with before. I was able to craft this entire story from beginning to end. And I was like, wow. Whereas before it was like I'd second guess myself all the time. I'd reset. And like I'd mentioned, I had an art tantrum about a book that I wrote. It was about 1,000 pages long, handwritten, and I just threw the darn thing away. And so it was weird, I didn't hate it, that's for sure. I was a little puzzled by it, but, these things happen. But over the years, you start to see this sort of thing develop, and you watch your child grow and make decisions, and you're like, I'm so proud of this. Because, yes, part of it is her. A big part of it is her. But at the same time, you cannot discount your own accomplishments in it. One thing I do have to tell people, because I very much agree that children are not babies. They're not pets. They're human beings with thoughts and feelings and emotions and own desires and wants and accomplishments and everything. And so you can't treat them like a pet. But they're dumb. And by dumb, I don't mean they're stupid. I mean they're ignorant. They don't know things. They still need parental guidance and intervention because they are going to make a lot of bad mistakes, a lot of bad choices. And as a parent, it's your job to step in and be like, hey, don't do that. That's dumb. And I see things like these quote-unquote free-range parents, and I just don't understand how they're doing that. Because, for one thing, I want to be involved. I want my involvement in my daughter's life. I want to be there for her. I want to be ever present. But at the same time, I do kind of understand that you do need to let your kids make their own mistakes, because that's a better learning tool than you telling them, hey, don't do that. It's kind of hard to let your kid fail, though. Kind of frustrating, especially when you know you could do it better. But there's the thing, as a parent, you have to sometimes take the step back and let them fail, and then talk to them about the failure. Teach them that a failure is not a bad thing. A failure is just something that didn't work, a learning experience. And kids don't really understand that. Heck, most adults don't really understand that. What was it? Was it Thomas Edison who was saying that I didn't fail 1,000 times, I just found 1,000 times that didn't work? And it's true, you got to learn from your mistakes. And that's one of the harder things as a parent, I'd say, is let these kids make their mistakes. Especially, some of the bigger mistakes. Teenager, though. I think I'm ready. I don't want it, because it just means I'm getting older, I don't want to be older. I still want to be young. I'm turning 35 this year, though. Not a bad year. 2020 has been a horrible year so far. I wanted it to be good. I so wanted it to be good. But my kid's smart, which has helped a lot. Moreover, the most important part is she's her own person, which is something a lot of kids need to learn to be. But it's too easy to be influenced by others, and with my kid, I'm glad that she sees stupidity for what it is. Stupidity is stupid. And so she doesn't see these stupid things go by. Like, she doesn't want to be an influencer. She doesn't want to be, I mean, she kind of wants to be a YouTuber, but not for the sake of fame or fortune or anything like that. She wants to do it because it's fun. She doesn't want that technically to be her source of identity. And I'm proud of that. She's still got, like, she's maintained the same idea for what she wants to be when she grows up since she was like 3 or 4. She wants to be a veterinarian. And you know what? I'm going to do my darndest to make sure she can get there. What happens afterwards, though, well, it's kind of out of my hands, but I am never going to fault her for wanting to do that and pursuing her dreams. One of the things I think that are probably best about our relationship, mine and my daughter's, is that, like I said, I don't treat her like a child, so to speak. I treat her with a level of respect and a level of openness warranted to her level of maturity. Yes, we do some off-color jokes together, and we make comments about stuff that other parents might say, isn't she a bit young? I'm like, well, yeah, a little bit, but not too bad, because she's smart and she's mature as a child. I mean, it's coming up on 13 years now, and I gotta say, no bolstering of my own ego here. She is probably, even in my opinion, one of the best kids I've met. A lot of them make stupid mistakes and stupid choices, and my kiddo makes stupid mistakes and choices, but with responsibility. She doesn't just sit there and say, oh, the whole world is to blame for me messing up. She accepts her own responsibility in her actions. And that's a good sign of maturity. And something even adults these days don't really have that much experience with. I know, I shouldn't be smack talking society, right? I'm here to talk about the goodness that is being a parent. Going back a little bit to what we were talking about before, and knowing that some people don't want to be parents, some people don't like children. While it's not a stance I agree with, I definitely understand not wanting the responsibility, because it's a scary thing. Not everyone's going to have the same reaction I did. Some people just should not be parents. And I say, if somebody says, I don't want to be a parent, then don't pressure them into it. While it is the most fulfilling, in my opinion, experience of your life, knowing that you raised a future generation, if you do it right, it is a scary, scary idea. And to try to force that on somebody who doesn't want it is just a recipe for disaster, because it stops being about raising the future generation and starts being about how are you going to break this kid, because it's not something to enter into lightly. In fact, I've joked often about having a parenting license. People ought to, people who become parents ought to have some sort of a test to pass before they become parents. Of course, it's an impractical idea, without being able to fully control men and such, their reproduction ability. There's going to be parents out there who don't want to be parents. And that is a very unfortunate thing for the child. Because, like me, I was ready for it. I was ready to be a parent. I had my ducks in a row, fully set to be the best dad I could be. Of course, I was still in the military at the time, and I went on deployment. No offense to the folks, my wife and my mother-in-law, who were taking care of my daughter when I was away. When I came back, she'd actually taken a couple of steps backwards in progression. Now, granted, she learned to talk. She learned to walk. But there were a few other things, like we had gotten her out of using sippy cups when I was, before I left. And when I came back, she was back in sippy cups. And I'm like, yeah, that's not right. She should be done with that. She should be drinking out of regular cups now. And moreover, she had a little attitude on her. And she was, I guess, through not being properly disciplined while I was away. So she never learned proper respect. And of course, I had to step in and be dad. Dad is disciplinarian. Funny enough, I say that like it's a bad thing. You know, I don't like being disciplinarian, yes. But enforcing roles of respect and honor is a tough decision. I'm blessed to say I have only ever had to spank my child once. She's pretty good. And to be perfectly honest, now of course, when I say spanked, I don't mean like a swat on the bum. I mean an actual spanking, like bend her over my knee and give her a few good swats. And people don't agree with that, I know. And to a degree, I don't either. But there is a layer to it. Like, you don't just, especially if you're angry, never spank your child if you're angry. If you're upset about something, no, don't. It has to be very controlled. You're not out there to hurt them. You're there to teach them a lesson. It's going to hurt, both of you. But it's about teaching consequences, and nothing reinforces that better than an actual physical representation. But also, it doesn't start and end with the spanking. The deed is done. You can talk about it. If they do not understand what you're talking about, or they do not grasp why it was bad, then you may need to proceed to spanking. And then after it's done, reinforce that they're not a bad person. Reinforce that it was something that had to be done. And talk about the situation. Talk about everything. And that is a level of respect that you need to show your kid. You are bigger. You are stronger. Yes, but the important part is respect. And I know some people are not going to agree with that. Not going to agree with spanking. And to a degree, I don't agree with spanking. To a fairly serious degree, I don't agree with spanking. Because if you're not controlled with it, if you're not respectful about it, and I know, how are you respectful about beating somebody's butt? It's all about reciprocation, you know. You hurt me, I hurt you. And now, don't frame it in that way, obviously, but it helps to teach the kid that there are consequences for their actions. And sometimes it's easy, you know, just take away their toys, like whatnot. Like, one of the things I had to do, I kept telling my daughter, hey, don't poke me with that. Stop poking me with your little wand. So I took the wand, and I told her, I warned you 3 times, because we have a 3-strike rule. I warned you 3 times, don't do this. And I snapped the wand. Now you don't get your toy anymore. That hurts. It hurts so badly. It was only a cheap little plastic $1 thing, but, you know, you got to teach them how to understand things. And, you know, she learned a serious she learned a serious amount of respect and how to show it and how to treat other people. Like, her space is important, but so is everyone else's, as it were. And that's an important thing for a kid to learn. You can't just say, hey, don't do that. You're disrespecting me. Kid doesn't understand what that means. Doesn't understand what disrespect means. And of course, like, to certain degrees, you may not have to. Like I said, I've only had to spank my daughter once. And it was 3 strikes, and then we were done with the spanking portion. Then we ended up talking for a good 15, 30 minutes afterwards about it. Because sometimes kids will get too emotional to actually listen to you. And that's kind of the point of it, is to kind of break through that. It's a weird thing, talking about spanking, especially in this day and age, especially after we saw that one mother on, I think it was YouTube or Twitch, one of the two. But, you hear the kid just screaming and bawling in the background as she's online talking about it. I'm like, no. It's another thing. This is something I picked up while I was in the Navy. It's a praise in public, punish in private. Because you need the kids to learn, but you don't want to be all out there and shaming the kid for, that. I've always hated seeing those people who put their kids in signs and make them walk on the street. Because that in my mind is much more detrimental than just 3 sharp swats. And that mom who came out talking like, oh, she destroyed my Jeffree Star palette. Meh, meh, meh. I'm sorry, lady. Why are you out here shaming your child for being a child? You won't want your priceless things broken? Put them away. And I'm talking about put them away. And somebody else brought up something that was actually really interesting around this whole ordeal. And it's kind of something that I did with my own daughter, was they want to be involved in your life. They want to be a part of it. And they see you putting on makeup, you want to put on makeup. And it's like, I myself am a video gamer, and gaming stuff is expensive, and I don't want my daughter to break it, but I want her to be involved. So she'll sit on my lap. Well, not anymore. She's too big for that. But she'll sit with me while I'm playing, and we'll talk about what's happening in the game. And it actually kind of led to the thing that I do on occasions when I do a sneak attack thing. It's like I'm hugging them. And that's how I explained Assassin's Creed to her. Was I'd sneak up behind somebody and be like, hug. She knew it wasn't me hugging them, but it was a funny joke that became a running gag for us. And that's kind of what you have to do, And kids are going to want to be involved in your life, because otherwise they're not. They're just sitting there bored the whole time. And like, I kind of want to get my daughter into writing. And so I'll talk about my own works with her. I'll discuss different plot elements. I'll discuss how I'm structuring things and help her, guide her into learning how to write. And she's not really into it, but she still likes to listen to my stories, which is woo. Wait till she's a teenager and she doesn't want to listen to my stories anymore. And additionally, going back to the spanking thing, I do have to say that there is a certain point in a kid's life when it stops being necessary. Like 2 to 4, I think, is the proper age. Like if you go beyond 4 and you're spanking your kid, then something's wrong. You messed up something. Because after 5, the kid is far more cognizant of the world around them. And like the one spanking in my kid's life was at 3 or 4. It was either 3 or 4. I don't remember. It was around about the time I came back from my deployment, and she was a little snot because nobody was disciplining her. And so I had to kind of undo the past year of, free reign, as it were, and teach her that she needed to respect her parents, respect the rules in the house. And I came up with this 3-strike rule. 1, 2, 3. And the first time I had to enforce that was for nap time. I told her, okay, it's nap time. I don't want to go take a nap. That's the rules, kiddo. You have to go take a nap. 1. But I don't want to. I want to stab it. The rule is nap time. But 3. And I picked her up and I carried her and I put her in bed and I told her, if you get out of this, you're getting a spanking. She didn't get out of it. The spanking actually didn't come until much later after that moment. And I hated it, every second of it, and I'll never do it again. I don't even think, like, even to my own self, I think, maybe I went overboard. But it was a very calm, very controlled manner. Like, she was somber. She didn't even bawl when it happened. That's how you know it wasn't too hard. Like, she cried a little bit, like definitely tears and stuff. Like, I'm in trouble. But it was like a matter of, I want you to understand that this is bad, and the best way to do it is this. You can't expect it always to be, able to be talked about. And that is something that kids need to learn. That's something that adults need to learn. Because talking doesn't always fix everything, so some people just don't want to listen. There have been ups and downs as being a parent, but it's a job I will never give up. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of my daughter because she has come so far and become such a wonderful person. So respectful. I mean, she even talked about it yesterday. She was like, I was thinking about it, and when I'm talking to my teachers, I'm always respectful. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, may I use the restroom, please? And I'm like, good. That's how you should be. And she's like, but with you, I'm not. I'm just like, I got to go pay. I'm like, yeah, that's our relationship dynamic. I don't expect you to call me sir. I'm not going to ask you to treat me like I'm royalty because just like you, I'm a person. There's moments when respect and whatnot is necessary and professionalism is important. But in general, everyday life, I'm a person, you're a person, we're both going to be people. She ain't my best friend, she's my kid. But that doesn't mean I have to be mean about it. But anyway, that's it for me for today. Thank you all so much for joining me for this stream of consciousness. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go and poke that like button for me. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, as always, you're more than welcome to leave a comment down in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, when I can, if I can. You know all that jazz. And tune in next time as we talk about something else at another time. And until then, good night.